Welcome back to Story After Midnight, where the darkness never sleeps. I'm your storyteller, guiding you through the world's most terrifying and mysterious true encounters. From haunted homes to ghostly sightings to strange and unexplained phenomena, I bring you the spine-chilling stories that will make you question what you thought you knew. In tonight's episode, we dive deep into the eerie and unsettling world of real-life ghost encounters. These are stories from those who have unknowingly brushed up against the supernatural and lived to tell the tale. So find a quiet spot, dim the lights, and make sure you're alone, because the shadows might be closer than you think. Who knows what's lurking, watching, and waiting to make its presence known? Now let's step into the unknown. The darkness awaits us.
The bells of the convent of Santa Margherita tolled midnight, low, mournful echoes that rolled through the fog-drenched cloisters of Monza like a dying breath. Beyond the iron gates and high stone walls, the world slept, unaware of the darkness nesting within. Inside, candlelight flickered feebly against the damp, crumbling walls of the ancient convent. In the east wing, Sister Virginia sat bolt upright in her cell, breathing in sharp, desperate bursts. She had dreamt again. The same cold corridor, the same whispering shadows that twisted through the air like smoke, and at the end, the woman in white. Always the same face. Her lips sewn shut. Virginia dared not sleep again. At 23, she was still beautiful. Too beautiful, the abbess had once said, with narrowed eyes and the suspicion of a woman who knew how dangerous beauty could be. Her thick black hair had long been sheared, her once silken dresses replaced with the rough wool of the Holy Order, yet the sins of the outside world clung to her like perfume. She was born Mariana de Leyva, of noble Spanish blood. She had not chosen the veil. It had been chosen for her, forced upon her by a father obsessed with legacy and status. Her name was erased, her freedom buried. Only the title remained, Sister Virginia Maria. But no veil, no title could silence what lived inside her. Guilt. It came each night now with cold fingers and colder memories. Of what she had done. Of what had happened within these walls. She stood shakily, lighting the candle by her bed. Its glow trembled. The air in her room had turned colder than the autumn wind should allow, as if the stone itself exhaled frost. The whispering began again. Not from the hall, not from another cell, but from inside her room. She spun, heart hammering, and saw the mirror. A sin to keep such a thing, but she had hidden it well behind a loose stone. Now it sat exposed on the small table. The surface rippled. A woman's face bloomed across the glass, gray-skinned, sunken eyes, lips drawn tightly by black threads. The woman in white. Virginia stumbled back, mouth open, yet no scream came. Her voice had long been lost, taken by years of forced silence, obedience, and shame. The mirror shattered. She collapsed against the wall, weeping silently. Somewhere down the corridor, footsteps echoed, slow, deliberate. She wasn't alone. 6 months earlier, the convent welcomed her not with love, but with suspicion. The abbess, a wiry, severe woman with cold, watchful eyes, led her through the cloisters like a lamb to slaughter. "You'll find peace here," the abbess had said, her voice clipped. "Or you'll be broken trying." It was not a place for joy. Joy was a temptation. Laughter, vanity, disobedience, each punished with fasting, solitude, or the lash. But for Mariana, now Sister Virginia, the worst punishment was the silence. The enforced vow of quietude was meant to bring clarity, spiritual strength. Instead, it drew her deeper into her own haunted mind. That's when the dreams began. The first, they were fleeting. A pale figure glimpsed in the garden. A voice echoing in the confessional when no one sat behind the screen. Then came the crying. A soft, desperate weeping that came from within the chapel walls, always around midnight. "Who weeps?" she asked one day, breaking her vow. The other nuns exchanged uneasy glances. "There is no one," Sister Benedetta whispered, her eyes avoiding contact. "We do not speak of it." But Virginia pressed. Each night, she followed the sound of weeping until she found herself before the old sealed chamber at the end of the east wing. A door with no handle. A room that had been locked for over a century. The candles in the chapel guttered. Virginia sat before the altar, knees bruised from hours of penance. She prayed not for forgiveness but for answers. "Why do you haunt me?" she whispered aloud. Behind her the air thickened. The sobbing began again. And then, a voice. "Hello. Wounded. Thimel. You know why." Virginia turned. A pale woman stood before the altar, cloaked in the faded habit of a nun long dead. Blood had soaked through her veil. Her mouth was torn open, threads dangling loosely from torn lips. "You broke the vow," the specter hissed. "I never chose it." Virginia cried. "You desecrated the sacred vows, and so must atone." The ghost surged forward, shadows trailing like smoke. Virginia fled. She burst through the cloisters, past stunned sisters, toward the east wing, toward the sealed chamber. She no longer ran from it. She wanted truth, even if it killed her. She reached the door. The iron cross above it was broken, half scorched as though by fire. The air hummed with ancient dread. The crying was deafening now. She pressed her hand against the cold wood. It creaked open. Inside, moonlight revealed a small room draped in rot and ruin. Dust choked the air. In the center stood a single chair, iron and rusted, with leather restraints. Blood stained the floor. There a journal, bound in faded leather, left open. Confessio Sororis Benedetta. The final page read, "She would not repent. He took the child. She broke every vow. The Mother Superior ordered silence, forever. Buried in the wall, behind the altar. May God forgive us." Virginia recoiled. Buried in the wall. The woman in white wasn't a vision. He was real. And she had been murdered. The walls began to shake. A groan echoed through the chamber. The ghost emerged again, eyes ablaze. "You will speak what they would not," she whispered. "You will bring truth." The stones split behind the altar, revealing skeletal remains tangled in tattered habit, jaw frozen in a silent scream. Virginia screamed, falling backward as the ghost's form merged with the bones. Then darkness. The morning bell rang, but no sun broke through the leaden skies above Monza. The convent of Santa Margherita stood still, its corridors empty, its silence more ominous than holy. Somewhere deep in the east wing, beneath fractured stone and forgotten bones, Sister Virginia Maria lay unconscious beside the shattered remains of a wall and the skeletal body it had hidden for over a century. The ghost was no longer visible, but her presence remained, thick in the air, in the ancient dust that danced like ash, in the shadows that clung to the stones like secrets. When Virginia awoke, her throat burned raw from screaming. The air was cold, yet her body dripped with sweat. Her hands were stained with dirt and blood. But worst of all was the sound. The endless rhythmic scratching came from inside the walls. Days earlier, Virginia had begun to change. The other sisters saw it in her eyes, haunted, wild, searching. She no longer flinched when the candles flickered or when shadows twisted at the edge of vision. Her vows were meaningless now. She fasted obsessively, whispered to things that weren't there, and was seen wandering the garden at night, barefoot and murmuring Latin that none recognized. The abbess demanded confinement. "Lock her away before she infects the others," she declared, her voice cracking under fear she refused to admit. Virginia was dragged, kicking and screaming, into the solitary cell once used for penance. But they made a mistake. They left her mirror. The mirror pulsed now, alive with an otherworldly shimmer. Within it, Virginia no longer saw her face, but the face of the ghost. Not Sister Benedetta. No, the spirit had another name. The forbidden child of a priest. Conceived in secrecy. Hidden in shame. A burden on Sister Benedetta, who had chosen to protect her, to raise her within the walls of the convent. But the others, the abbess, the council, they had demanded punishment. Lucia was tortured, then silenced, and buried. Now her wrath awakened. "You see now," the voice whispered through the mirror. "The order is built on blood." Virginia wept. "What do you want from me?" "To reveal the truth. To bring fire to the lies." The mirror cracked down the center. Virginia stood slowly, possessed not by madness but purpose. She slipped from her cell unnoticed. The corridors were too silent. The nuns, gone perhaps in hiding, or worse. She returned to the chapel. There on the altar where once the Eucharist had lain, rested the remains of Sister Lucia. Bones cleansed by time. Hollow sockets turned upward in eternal accusation. Virginia knelt before them. "I will not be silent." The candles all extinguished at once. A sound, a low drawn-out whisper, slithered through the air like a blade through silk. "Then speak, heretic." The chapel's windows shattered inward. Wind screamed through the stone, carrying with it the scent of rotten fire. The crucifix above the altar twisted, blackened, melting into an obscene shape. One by one the nuns appeared, but not alive. Their eyes bled shadows. Their mouths gaped open in voiceless screams. They circled Virginia, pointing, chanting in a dead tongue. Lucia emerged from the bones, her ghost fully formed now, eyes like cold moons. Her lips no longer sewn, but split open, oozing shadow. "You must give voice to the dead," she whispered, "or join them in silence." Virginia opened her mouth to cry out, but her voice failed. 1,000 hands, thin, skeletal, clawed, erupted from the floor, dragging her down into the stone, into the darkness. The chapel collapsed inward with a deafening roar. And then, silence. 3 months later, the convent stands abandoned, windows boarded, walls cracked with creeping ivy. They say no one survived. No bodies were found. Only a single room remained untouched, the sealed chamber in the east wing. Inside a mirror, cracked, and behind it faint scratching sounds. Sometimes, only sometimes, if you stand very still, you'll hear a whisper from beyond the veil. A woman's voice. "I see you." Then your reflection will smile back. But your mouth won't move, and it will not be your face. Some vows are not meant to be broken, and some souls, not meant to rest.
Thank you for joining me tonight on this eerie journey into the unknown. If these stories have left you with a chill down your spine, don't forget to like and subscribe for more spine-tingling tales. This really means a lot to me and helps to keep me on YouTube. And remember, there's always more lurking just around the corner. If you've ever experienced something strange, something unexplainable, feel free to share your own story in the comments below. You never know who else might be listening or watching. Until next time, keep your lights low, your doors locked, and your curiosity never at ease. Because at Story After Midnight, the darkness never rests, and neither do we.